Let's get started. Thanks for dropping by. This is DevOps ICU, improving software development results by correctly integrating UX. I'm Debbie Levitt. I'm American, but I now live in Italy, so I am your neighbor. Please come have your beachy holiday in Sardinia and write it off as a business trip to see me. Which you can actually do. So I've been working in UX. I'm actually not a DevOps chick or a developer chick. I am a UX specialist. I've been doing UX since the mid-90s. Who remembers the mid-90s? Right, but who remembers it really well? I've been doing this since the mid-90s. I lived for many years in the San Francisco area, working at a lot of places there, and now I run my own agency. Well, actually, I've been running my own agency 25 years, but it's called P-Type, short for prototype, because I love making UX prototypes. So this is our 1-hour version of this training program. I actually wrote a 2-day version, which I give privately at companies. I'm not going to keep you here for 2 days. We will leave in an hour. But it does mean that if you feel like I left something out or I didn't go deeply enough into something, just know I know. I have 400 slides you didn't see, so there's more if you want to know more. Also, the hour version tends to run pretty much a whole hour. So if I don't have time for questions at the end, just stick around, find me, or email me. I've got my email up on the bottom of every slide. Add me on LinkedIn. Let's be buddies. Just find a way to ask me questions. I do want to answer all questions. This is very clicky, but I'll probably live. You are welcome to take pictures of the slides. You can tweet them. That's my handle. I don't give the slides out afterwards because my deck is actually a few hundred slides and you're just seeing a subset of them thanks to PowerPoint custom slideshows. I don't give them out. You're welcome to take photos of them, and you'll know it's a good time to take a photo when you see that. I didn't invent the camera icon, but I use it to show you that my animations have stopped. Nothing else is going to show up on this slide, and it's a great time to take a picture. So, in our time together, we're going to do a couple of fun interactive things, and we're going to start with a poll, and all of these can be taken from your phone. They are optional, and they are anonymous. So the first thing I want to ask you guys, and you can take the poll, if you look at the very top, you can go to menti.com. 88752. People watching the live stream can do this too. If you're watching this later, you're probably messing up another talk I'm giving. But if you're watching this live or you're here live, menti.com, 88752. And this poll question asks, what do you believe about UX? It could be UX as a practice or UX people. And yes, every choice here is negative. I am definitely not looking for compliments. I want to know which horrible negative things do you believe about UX. I think you can even pick more than one. So let's see if we can get some live answers. All right, great. Person one, yes, I expect to see votes for all of these. Don't let me down. I know you guys have a lot of negative feelings about UX, and hopefully in the next hour we can improve a little bit of that. So let's see, 10. I didn't count how many people are here, but let's see if we can get some more people voting. Oh, I've killed all your good ideas. I'm so sorry. Not sorry. Okay. What? Nobody thinks I'm wasting time? That's news to me. All right, thank you. See how easy it is? I can manipulate you, all of you. All right, so that's probably half the room or so, and you're welcome to continue voting if you want, but I'll take this off the screen. So yes, these are certainly things that people believe about UX, and I know why you believe these things. I know there's a lot of difficulty between UX and other teammates, so that's what we're here to talk about. So, at many companies, engineering is fed by other teams. User stories, blueprints, wireframes, prototypes, what the heck are we building? This typically comes from somebody who's outside of engineering, and they're going to be deciding what is this and how does it work and how does it lay out and things like that. But I found that a lot of companies are circumventing UX or not including them at their company or not hiring the right people. And why? because of everything we saw in the last slide. Oh, these people are artsy-fartsy hipster jerks who waste our time and budget and kill our good ideas. I've heard it all. Even though I'm not artsy-fartsy or a hipster, I'm actually a terrible artist. I have a degree in music after dropping pre-med, and so I am not an artist at all. I'm really just pure UX. But I know that companies are not, a lot of them don't want to work with UX, and really they just don't understand UX. Because expert UX architects will research, design, test, and iterate on everything between someone saying, I have an idea, and someone else saying, let's get it to developers to be built. So when I poked around DevOps, I found that it really seems to be about a lot more than just how developers connect with IT or what frameworks we're using or how some of these processes can be improved. It was really about recognizing how many teams are involved and what they all bring to the table and how to get them working better together. Because I find that developers and engineering architects want to be involved when I'm doing my work, but that's pretty much left out of a lot of definitions. And I want to be involved with engineers and all the engineering team, but that's left out of methodologies as well. So we all end up siloed, and we've got to break that down. Because all your customer knows about is your user experience. They have no idea if you have 1,000 developers or if you were Agile, Lean, Waterfall, or Avalanche, everybody run this project is out of control. And you're a user too, and the systems that you use, they have competitors. So what made you choose the systems that you choose? And when you see a system that doesn't work the way you want or need, do you think, I wonder how many sprints they spent on that? No, you don't. You think, who built this piece of junk? And you're totally right. Who researched this? Did anyone research with customers like you? Did anyone design with you in mind? Was it tested on anybody before it was given to engineers to build and release to the public? These are good questions, and usually the answer is no, we didn't bother with that. So when I looked at DevOps, I realized there was a nice kinship between DevOps and UX in that we're also looking at things like product quality. Absolutely, we are problem finders, problem solvers. We're obsessed with product quality and building what has customer value. We certainly want to see shorter time to market, improved productivity and efficiency for our teams, and increased ability to build the right product. We want easy to learn, easy to use, tell your friends it's great stuff to be getting out there for our customers. And of course, improved customer satisfaction. If we don't get refocused on the customers, we probably won't have jobs. But I find that most methodologies are shooting for faster, more efficient, and seem to have forgotten a little bit about customer satisfaction and customer value. So where does UX fit into this complete breakfast? So if you're not really working with UX much or at all at your company, your process probably looks something like this. Somebody with a vision for the product, a product manager, the CEO, the external client, somebody tells you, we're going to build this thing. So you build it, you test it, you get it up somewhere where they can see it. Wouldn't you know, they see it and they go, now that I see that, do they love it the first time? Do they love it the 5th time? So now that I see that, I think I've changed my mind. Now that means, okay, what do you want now? We've got to build it again, QA it again, and show it to them again. It's obviously an inefficient, money-burning, frustrating cycle. And then, of course, eventually someone says, just ship it. And we give it to customers, and we pray to whatever God we've chosen that this is going to go well for us. But I would say there's got to be at least one better way. If you have UX in your universe, it looks a little bit more like this. That person with the idea or the product vision comes to UX and says, this is what we're looking to build. Now, sometimes I'll say, hey, that's already a bad idea. Or let's do some research to make sure that's really the right thing to build for our customers. Or is this really the top priority for right now, or is that something we should build later? So UX is a great partner to product and the people with the vision. Then we can cycle through our tasks, which I'll explain in a moment. We can iterate on our designs. We test them with real humans who don't work with us. We test them with real customers, potential customers. We make sure that this execution of the idea is going to be great. And if it's not, we fix it, because our testing is like your QA. We've got to test our stuff to make sure it's going in the right direction. Then when everybody's on board, we can package it up and get it to engineering so that you guys can build it once. And if somebody changes their mind, it's not a total disaster, because they come back to me and I get all New York on their asses. No, not really. They come back to me and we see if the change that they want is really, again, is this the right thing to do for the customers for any of their goals or needs? And if they change their mind, that's still okay, because I'm changing wireframes and prototypes. You guys haven't written any code yet, so a change of mind doesn't mean a development change request. It just means iterating on it in the UX process, which means, can you smell the free conference food smell of possibly only having to build something once? That is the dream fantasy that I would hope that UX can offer our engineering buddies. So, what is UX? This slide is for my Italian friends. Anybody speak Italian from Italy? No? Likes Italy? Okay, anyway, likes pizza. So this is, what is UX? So what is UX? And I find that not everybody knows, or what you thought it was, it kind of isn't. User experience is the more scientific, psychological, and problem-solving side of product experience and service design. So again, not artsy-fartsy. And our goals include happier and more loyal customers, ease of learning and use, shorter, more intuitive processes, and accessibility for people with mobility, hearing, cognitive, vision, and other issues. Now, happier and more loyal customers seems pretty obvious. I don't have to explain that to you. We don't have time to explain the other two, but let's talk a moment about accessibility. And again, this plays into the red and green cards outside of our door. This was an American football game 2.5 or so years ago, and Nike decided to get creative with uniforms and put teams in all red and one team in all green. And this looked kind of Christmassy, but people thought it was cool, except for the red-green colorblind, for whom it mostly looked like this. It was the sort of pewter-colored team against the slightly pewter-colored team, and even former professional football players were tweeting, "I'm colorblind and I can't follow this game." And it was a huge embarrassment for Nike, who really should have known a little bit more about the variations of us as humans. So for people who thought that UX is just drawing boxes on a page and making wireframes, remember that good UX designers, unfortunately not everybody is good, but good UX designers should be taking accessibility into account. Think, again, people with vision, hearing, mobility, and cognitive issues. And then, of course, that gets dumped on you guys to build with all of your special tagging and ARIA tags and other things we need to do on the tech side. So what is UX's process? I will give you the short version, not the half-day version. So basically, we have this giant process, and I want you to know a little bit about a few of the high notes here. So first of all, we certainly can start with getting those requirements and sometimes auditing what we have. And to me, requirements is the first time when UX should be working with engineers. When I get requirements, as soon as I understand them, I go straight to engineering or any other partner I need, well, I should say, and other partners, because it's not engineering or somebody else, and I find out what are our technical limitations here. Do we have all the API calls we need? Do we have the services in place? Will we be building them? Will they be ready in time when my design is ready? I want to make sure, and I know you've all had horror stories in the past with UX people who didn't work with you, threw a design at you, you couldn't build it, and you wanted to kill them. I understand. I want to kill them too. They give us a bad name. So I'm advising them to do this and telling you they should do this. If they don't do this, light a fire under their butts. So we should be working together from the start, and I always like to show my designs as I do them roughly every week, sometimes more frequently, to engineers to continue saying, now that this project is moving along, can you still build this with the time and resources that we have? I'm not asking for your approval, I'm not asking if you think it's pretty, but I definitely want to know if it is still feasible and viable. UX research is extremely important, but often skimped because people who don't understand it think it's a budget line item that we can cut. But UX is all about the user, and so it's not user-centered without users. So we do real research with real users, real customers if you have them, potential or archetypal customers if you don't. And we want to make sure that we're learning more about their habits, needs, motivations, what are they doing now, what are their workarounds, what works for them, what doesn't. So we're trying to get into this is where the psychology experience helps, we're trying to get into their heads. So the best way to design for them is to really get to know them. And we also want to get qualitative data. Quantitative is great. How many people hit the smiley faces on the way out of airport security? That's quantitative data. We know 27% of people hit the sad face, but we don't know what went wrong. How are we going to fix it if we don't know what's wrong? So UX research aims to figure out what's wrong, and we need to do a lot more of that. Information architecture has to do with our structures, hierarchies, and taxonomies, which are lots of long words that basically say probably your website or app menus and navigation. Sometimes that's database structure as well. And for anybody who has that weird cousin who got a university degree in library sciences, good news. Information architecture is a cousin of library sciences. You can tell that weird cousin there's a job out there waiting for them that isn't in the library. So this is, again, about organization and typically about navigation. So we really care about that, and in fact, I've got a little trick exercise for you later. You're going to learn more about it. Ha 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 ha. The evil. So interaction design is what you guys are thinking when you think UX. You think, oh, UX, they like design the pages and the screens, and they put boxes on pages and arrows and stuff. That's the interaction design, and it is certainly more complicated than I just made it sound, especially when we take accessibility into account. But the beautiful thing about interaction design is that when it's done well, it takes the previous steps into consideration. It's not done in a vacuum. If you know people at your company who get a project and they just start doing interaction design, depending upon what the project is, that might be okay, or they might be total imposters that I would like to fire. Because good interaction design needs research and data and other things to help inform us on what we should do. And now it goes to user testing, which we always do before we throw it to engineering, because it doesn't make sense for you guys to build it if we're not sure if this is what will be built. We're trying to save you time, money, and sanity. So we need to have kind of our own QA universe, which is sometimes a bit of a cycle, because testing will pretty much always find flaws. We want to fix those flaws, but yet how many people have been at companies where we knew there were flaws, there was UX debt or there were tech debt, and someone said, just release it? Has that ever happened? No, never, right? We never ship anything that is, yes, okay. Some of you are crying. Quick question, show of hands, especially the engineers in the room. How many times have you been building something and you're like, wow, this is kind of crappy. I can't believe we're going to give this to our customers? Yeah. Yeah, and we feel the same way because we're like, I can't believe we're going to give this to our customers, assuming we were even involved. I'm sure in many cases UX wasn't involved. Even where we are, this happens, and so we need to be involved in processes more because it's my job to stop that, and I'll be telling you more about that later. So this is a really quick exercise for you guys to learn a little bit more about information architecture, a piece of UX you probably didn't know about, and we're going to do it from our phones. It's a 2-question thing, so it's really fast. If you just run to devopsicu.com/tree test, it should redirect you to a much longer, uglier URL. But basically, a tree test is something that we can do in the information architecture portion of our process. And it's where we have started to kind of put together what the menus might be for our website. But before we make them pretty and before we give them to you to build, we want to test them to make sure if we gave people things to do, tasks to try, would they be able to use our menu system to end up in the right place? Because if our menu system takes people to the wrong place or it's confusing, then the 4 horsemen of bad UX have arrived and we need to fix our menus. So can everybody get there? Did that pop up? It should be a little thing about tree test, takes about 5 minutes, and it's the apple.com website in Latin America. And I chose Latin America because they have a much smaller apple.com website than America and other countries. And I'm going to ask you to find where in these menus would you find 2 things. So go ahead and take this test. Does anybody need this URL still up on the screen? Did everyone get here? Because then I'm going to flip the screen to the results. And we're going to get some live results and talk about them. Go, internet, go. Okay, there's 40 of you working on the tree test. Thank you. It's only 2 questions. It should be very short, and some find it easy, some find it hard, but you know, pretend you're on that Apple site and you're going through menus, so you're not searching. And yes, you don't have pages to help you out here. This is, can people find things in our menus? One person is finished. Check you out, fancy person. Okay, no one wants to admit it. It was you? I always love to take the first person and look immediately at how they did, just so they can feel a little weird. You got them both right. Very good. Not immediately, though. No, so I'm going to talk about that, because to me, getting it not immediately right is still getting it wrong. So, great. Let's wait till we have at least half the people checking in, and then we'll look at some results. Great, 7 of you. Someone appears to be in Belgium. Someone's on VPN. Or someone has the true Zen magic. Someone's in oh, wait, we have streaming people. Hi, streaming people, Belgium. Hi, Belgium. I forgot we have people watching a live stream. So as you guys, so a handful of you have finished it. For people here in the room, was that easy? Was that hard, confusing? Throw some words at me, but please use English. Oh, so I can hear you. Confusing. Yeah, it certainly can be. And to me, the message to the company running this test, which we're pretending this was Apple, but it's me. The company running the test should not walk away from a test like this and say, well, some people got it wrong, but let's just put it out there anyway. We want to make sure that we're giving people the best user experience possible. So when I see these results, I want to go back and fix the menus before we release them to the public. So let's start taking a look at some results while people fill it in. So I can learn a little bit about you guys. I can also have this tool break down results just by type of job if I want. How did engineers do versus how did developers do versus how QA people did? But I'm not gonna, make you guys fight to the death. So let's take a look at some of these results, and I'll just hit refresh so we've got as many people as possible represented. Spin, spin. Okay. So here's how people did, and here's what this testing tool shows me. Now, there's success and there's failure. Now, usually we like to tell people, don't worry about this test, there's no right or wrong answer. But there is a right or wrong answer from the perspective of there is a page on the website where Apple put this stuff. If you are looking for it and you end up on the wrong page, you've kind of gotten it wrong. Now, again, it's not your fault. This is, to me, the fault of the people who built bad menus. But take a look at what we've got here. So we've obviously got a lot of Apple fans who have seen this stuff before, and that's great. But notice we've got direct and indirect successes and failures. Direct means someone went right to their answer and confidently said, this is my answer. Indirect means someone went somewhere, kind of backed out a little bit, went over here. And to me, this might call it an indirect success. I still call that a failure because I know that you found that frustrating, confusing, disappointing, distracting, infuriating, four-letter wording. So, to me, 7 people got it right, everybody else kind of got it wrong. But again, that's not to say you guys are bad in some way. It's more about we need to fix this. And I can even have this tool tell me, where did everyone go? Now, the correct answer was to go to music and then AirPods. That's what all the green shows. Again, sorry to the colorblind, I didn't build this tool. But we can see how many people went to iPhone. Blue are the people who went to iPhone and said, uh-oh, I don't think I'm in the right place, and turned around. Red are the people who said, it's iPhone, I'm done. Now, what I want you to notice about that is, let's look back at what the question was. The question was, you're curious about our AirPods for your iPhone. I purposefully wrote a shitty question. I biased the results. I ran a flawed study by just putting in the word iPhone because I made a bunch of you guys go to iPhone because I wrote iPhone. You're thinking, oh, I want AirPods for my iPhone. I guess I'll click on iPhone. Only the Apple superfans knew to go straight to music. And so this is an example of why we don't want other people at our company to run research, because they typically don't have some of the psychological background that a good UX person does. And we really aim to run unbiased research without flaws like this. So again, I wrote that question badly on purpose to make a bunch of you go to iPhone first. And if I can do that with one word, I can write all kinds of terrible studies by accident or on purpose, and that kills the whole reason of doing research. So here I sent at least 25 of you down the wrong path with one word. So again, that's why it's important to bring in more specialized experts when we want to do these things, because they can easily quickly go very bad. And you can see people are all over the place. But again, this is a message to Apple to say maybe people do associate AirPods with iPhone. Maybe the iPhone page should have a part of the page about certain accessories. So this would make me either want to change web pages so that the things you expect are there, or change the menus so that you have an easier time finding things. I know we've got to keep burning through because we're burning through our time together, but does anybody, I'll take 1 or 2 quick questions about the tree test and why we did it and what it means. Does anyone have a question? Anyone feeling like they can't trust me ever again because I tricked you? No, we're still friends. Good. Any questions on the tree test and why it's important? What's the correct question? Great question. I forgot to tell you. What is the correct question? The correct question is, you're curious about AirPods, with no sneaky hint about what they might be related to. Because I wrote that question to trick you into going into the wrong place. But I've worked at places where people wrote the question to trick you into going to the right place so that they could prove their stuff was good. So that would mean, in this case, since AirPods are found in the music page, what you would write, the bad question would be, you're curious about AirPods to listen to your music. If I'd written that question, how many people who picked iPhone would have still picked iPhone first? You would have said, oh, okay, one guy. But evidently like 50 others would have been like, hey, she said music. Maybe it's in this music section. So we can certainly bias a question to give us the results we want. In this case, I wanted a bunch of people to get it wrong, so I wrote that to trick you. But many people I've worked with would write a question that would help you find the right place. Bad research. Good question. Good question, bad research. One other question? No? Then I'm moving right along. Tree tests rule. This tool comes from Optimal Workshop. The tree test costs $99 to do, or you can have unlimited for like 166 American dollars a month. So again, user testing doesn't cost that much. It took us just a few minutes to get some results, and we can already interpret them and see what's going wrong. So for people who feel like, oh man, user testing, it takes so long, it costs so much, it really doesn't. And it's so cool. Okay, boom. PowerPoint animations to the rescue. So quick thing about UX versus UI, because right now, people don't know what the difference is. Heck, you didn't even know what UX was. So how will you know the difference between this and UI? And I found the best way to explain this is I did some research on what do you learn in American universities if you're getting a degree in UX, and what do you learn in American universities if you're getting a degree in visual design or kind of like art for new media kind of degrees, and there's plenty of them in America. And you'll notice that there is absolutely no overlap. The UX people are studying a lot of psychology and behavior. They're studying interaction design. They're studying how to run better studies to be not flawed, not biased. What types of studies do we do to learn what types of things? And other research methods. Sometimes you're even taking courses in statistics, so you can do good statistical analysis of your research. Our visual designers tend to be studying typography, photography, branding, motion graphics, icons, and colors. Now, they are absolutely important. There's nothing on this slide here that says they're not important. They're super important, and I'm super in love with my visual designers because I'm not an artist. I need them so badly. They are that piece that I am missing, so I love and respect them. But my goal with this slide is to say there is no overlap. So for the people who think, hey, we need a UX person at our company, this person has a really pretty looking portfolio with lots of good art, we'll choose them, which is probably 70% of the companies in the room. You probably didn't choose a good UX practitioner. You chose a good artist who put UX on their resume. But if I were to look at their work, I would probably say they're not a UX practitioner. Just like if they looked at my artwork, they would know I'm not an artist. And I have a slide about that, but it's not, I'll show it later. So let's talk quickly about lean, and I do start with another poll. So get out your phones and let's vote on this poll, which is for comic relief, if I can find the activate button. So when we think about minimum viable product, which everyone's always fighting about when we do lean, UX and product and engineering, we're always battling about how much do we strip it down? How lean do we go? So I ask you, if we were to imagine a jogger, what is the minimum viable jogging outfit? So it's menti.com 88752. People at home can vote. Warning, there's always one rebel who picks number 3 as the minimum viable jogging outfit. Just letting you know, we know you're a rebel. All right, rebel, you're up there. So what's that minimum viable jogging outfit? Not the one you'd wear. The minimum viable jogging outfit. Maybe you would wear number 1. Who'd wear number 1? Not me. Okay, that guy. And the guy next to him. You guys could be friends. Okay, good. Okay, great. We've got lots of people voting. So I find that a lot of people say jogger 1's the way to go. We've got to, hey, it says minimal. We have to strip this thing down to the least it can be. And that outfit certainly is minimal. If he didn't have the hat on, I guess, we could probably skip the hat. That's about all I think we can skip at this point. But UX would say the second one, because we understand that stripping it down too far is probably too far, because people are still looking for customer value and they're still looking for their problems to be solved, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. When you guys think about websites you've been to where you're like, oh my God, this company is crap, and you left the website and you never came back, or you downloaded an app and you started using it and you said, these guys are crap, and you uninstalled it. People don't give a lot of second chances. They're not going to follow your company and wait to hear when you've released the new version. That's just your super fans. But everybody else says, I tried those guys, it was junk, I uninstalled it. And remember that MVP and beta are words we use internally to say, we didn't build this out as much as maybe somebody wanted. But these words aren't that meaningful to our customers. They're still expecting us to put out great software. So remember, go too lean and you could be turning people off. So for UX, we say the V in minimum viable product is actually valuable. What's the least that we can build? We're open to stripping it down, but what's the least we can build that still feels like it has customer value? That's still going to make people feel like, wow, this is what I needed. This is what I wanted. Maybe there's more coming. It's the minimum viable product. Don't tear down the place, guys. So just remember, people will, if you put out something that's junk, people will love to tweet about you. TechCrunch will write about you. It's not worth it. And take it from Eric. He wrote the Lean Startup book. Even if you're not doing lean, this is still good advice. He said, what if we found ourselves building something nobody wanted? In that case, what did it matter if it was on time and on budget? So remember, going too lean and minimal might not be the best choice. That's where UX should be working with product and engineering to find a better balance. So now let's talk about Agile, the elephant in the room. Does anybody here know a type of Agile called safe Agile? So I'll be picking on them a little bit because they're easy targets, but what I say is really, you agree they're an easy target? What I say is true about really any Agile methodology in general. So safe Agile has these lovely, easy to use infographics. And when I took a course from them in 2014, I asked them, where does UX fit in? And they said, we don't know. If you figure it out, let us know. And I let them know last year, and they mansplained me, and that was the end of that. But you can see, as of last year, they give UX a recycle your garbage icon in the island of crap we didn't know what to do with. So otherwise, what are we doing here with roadmap and vision and metrics? And that doesn't tell you or me or anybody else what is UX, what are these people doing, why does it take so long, which we've kind of talked about already, and how do they fit into our processes? Are they on the team? So based on what I've seen work at the many companies I've worked at, based on what I've heard works from some of the Agile coaches I've spoken to, and based on the disasters I've seen at the companies I've worked at, here's what I recommend with respect to Agile. So for starters, nobody puts UX in the corner. Thank you to the one person who's seen Dirty Dancing. So where do we live if we were to use this as a little bit of kind of an agile map, even if we don't do safe? And please don't do safe. But we are definitely in portfolio land. We want to be collaborating with portfolio, program, product, all of those people who are working on the prioritization of features, vision, roadmap, that type of stuff, because sometimes we fly in and we want to kill a project, and I know UX kills all my good ideas. Sometimes we want to kill or press pause on something that doesn't have super customer value, and we need to do that at that top level. We live in continuous exploration because we want to constantly explore the market and make sure that we are addressing the market and building what has value to the customer. We're all about customer solutions. I don't know what this little guy is doing over there, but we're all about him, her, them, and it's what we live for. I would love to make DevOps better if I could. You know, some of it's a little outside of my universe, but I would love to decrease failure rates, though I'm usually thinking on the human experience level and not on the technical bug level. I would love shorter time between fixes, but I would love to see you guys have fewer fixes. Better UX design earlier, fewer fixes later. Hey, I would put us on the Agile team. And I've heard from other people, wow, our UX Agile relationship was a mess until we said the UX person is on the Agile team. And I've been on some Agile teams at jobs, and I've collaborated very closely with engineering, and I absolutely love that, and I thought it worked very well because we're not an outside consultant, we're not an outside subject matter expert. When you call us that, it gives you a good reason to never call me. So I want to make sure that we are working more closely together. So one UX designer on the Agile team, that person can represent all of the creative people like the visual designers and the copywriters. So we're not telling you to put everybody on the team, but get me on that team and I'll run interference with everybody else. What appears to work best is making sure that UX is at least 2 sprints ahead of where engineering is. I spoke to a company recently, they said they try to stay 4 sprints ahead of where engineering is. Well, that's a dream. And that means we have to have really worked with portfolio and project early on to have been given that runway to be able to start and fill that backlog a bit before engineers want to get started. And again, I do tend to separate UX work from visual design work. I don't want artists to design it until I've designed it and tested it and I'm sure it's going in the right direction. Otherwise, I'm wasting the artist's time or I'm masking bad UX with excellent visual design. So I tend to see it as UX work, then get the visual design and branding on it, then get it to engineering. And some of the middle step can sometimes be reduced or skipped if we have a great component library or style guide or design system or whatever they're calling it this week. I'll wait for photos. Good. And like any sprint, ours can go wrong. You know, sprints can go wrong. More work than we estimated, someone got sick. Our sprints can go wrong too. You've seen from our user testing that sometimes we can be surprised by the results. We do expect flaws, but sometimes more come back than we expect. We need the time to fix them. We don't want to just build it and just ship it. Now we've got debt. So just know that I worked at one company where when I ran late, I just had engineers glaring at me. I'm going to go ahead and say that's not agile. If you really want to be agile, grab something out of it. I bet there's something you need to refactor. I bet you could improve the time to interactive on this page. You're killing me, kids. So get stuff in the backlog that you can work on if I run late. I apologize if I run late. I'm usually good at estimating time, but anything can happen, and let's see it coming. There are some Agile Manifesto principles that remind us to be a better partner with UX, like, hey, our highest priority is customer satisfaction. Give motivated individuals the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. So hire great UX people, let them do their job. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Design matters, make it great. My favorite, who doesn't have a favorite Agile Manifesto principle, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. And this comes back to, you killed my idea, or something like that. There are times when UX will believe this is not the right thing to do, we need to do this differently, we need to put this on hold, and usually we find that we just stop getting invited to meetings. And that shouldn't happen because that sounds like a little bit ego-y, but we want to make sure we are invited to meetings and people understand why we're trying to evolve or kill something. But ultimately, it is because we recognize that there is work we shouldn't do. And so for all those who raised their hands earlier and said, I can't believe we built that crap, I wish I could have been there earlier to turn that into work not done. So the biggest problem I find between getting UX and Agile to work great together is everybody else wants to estimate my time. The portfolio and project people want to say, yeah, UX, they just draw boxes on the page, give them like a day. And then when it comes to the sprint, someone else goes, yeah, UX, give them like an hour. Magically at everywhere I've worked, nobody's come to me and said, hey, we have this project coming. How much time do you need to do your process correctly? What's your time? What's your budget? What are your needs? What tools will you use? I don't understand why, but people don't involve us. So at the top end, product, project, portfolio, program should be working more closely with UX. And then even down to the team and sprint level. Agile, if we're on the team, we're also estimating our time. No one's going to estimate my time for me. So get us into planning and estimation meetings. I want to be there. Non-UX teammates are incorrect in estimating which tasks need to be done and how much time UX needs to do them. How bad would I be at estimating your time? Super bad. And that's what I find in the other direction. And it gets aggravated by people who don't understand work, but now that you're understanding a little bit more, you can see why this turns into not only work conflict, but it usually ends up as culture conflict. Because, hey, I once went to a meeting at a very famous American company. They said, it's project kickoff, let's get started. I said, great, how much time do I have? And they literally said 2 days. And I said, do you know what I do? And they said, you draw boxes on a page. We thought that takes 2 hours, but we wanted to be generous, so we gave you 2 days. I don't drink, but I thought about starting. And so not only is that bad for the project, bad for the customer, it's bad for culture, because people are once again treating us like, your job, it's like this big, and so meaningless. So whatever you're doing, make sure UX gets to estimate their time. Okay, we still have about 15 minutes left, so let's keep talking. People wonder if isn't UX just waterfall? You guys are trying to do all this design up front. You're waterfall and we hate you. Well, isn't Agile a bunch of tiny waterfalls? I mean, let's not start throwing a lot of terms at each other and make each other crazy. So let's imagine that we have a 5-step process we need to build, and it's going to be on our website, and this is something the user is going to do from start to end if we're lucky. And as engineers, you can build this into 5 chunks, but of course, as engineers, you're probably breaking this down into dozens of engineering pieces. You might even have 1 ticket and a zillion user stories just on the password field. But you can do that because you were given documentation. You were given user stories, requirements, hopefully wireframes or prototypes from somebody. So it's easy for you to break this into pieces because you know what we're starting with and what we're ending with. When it comes to me, I have to write this story. I have to create this. I have to decide how many steps are there, what happens on each step, where do they go right, where do they go wrong, what do the error messages look like. I don't have the benefit of having it all ready to go. That's why I don't build step 1 and throw it to engineering. Build step 2, throw it to engineering, because to me, this is 1 unit. This step-by-step process is 1 unit because to our customer, it's 1 unit. Our customer doesn't say, okay, I filled out the password field, I'm done. Oh, there's another step. They see it as a workflow, a step-by-step process. And if I'm going to bring this to testing, I have to bring the whole thing to testing. We wouldn't test just 1 piece in the UX world. Obviously, in the engineering world, you can test, does the password field work? Yes, no, passes, doesn't pass. But for UX, we need to see a customer using all of these steps to see where our process or screens are flawed. I don't know if anyone saw this viral video, but it's a screenshot from it. This is where someone had installed an automatic soap dispenser over a power outlet. So when people went to plug in power, they were automatically covered with wet soap on their power plug as they're connecting to live electricity. And the caption that I saw was, "This is why we do integration testing as well as unit testing." And the same thing is true for UX. This is why we design and test complete workflows rather than separate pieces in isolation. So there are times where UX just needs to give you a small piece and we'll be as fast and nimble and agile as we can, but there are times where we have something new that is a full process or workflow from the perception of the user, and it needs to be built in that way and tested in that way. And if you want to go, nya, 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 your waterfall, I kind of don't care because I have to create the best thing for the customer, and the best thing is to design and test the full thing and make sure it's good. So where UX doesn't do fast feedback and iterate, it's typically because we didn't get the time and budget to do it, not because we're against it. So help us fight for more time and more budget. Again, I want to see people thinking about these things. People are thinking too much about how fast can we go, and I want us to get back more to the quality of what we're building. So quick story, since I'm just very conscious of the time. This, of course, is a company you can't guess because I've cleverly covered it with clouds. Except for this guy who cracked up, so he knows who it is. But they had a bit of a problem last year because they had released something in 2017, and by 2018 they had to admit that it was a failure. And I heard from a rumor, so I didn't work at this company, the rumor was they spent tens of millions of dollars on this product, and when they released it, people didn't like it. Their existing customers felt it was difficult to use, difficult to navigate, visual design got a little wacky, and customers hadn't asked for the features that got built, they didn't like them, and they didn't want them. So last year, this company had to go to their blog and go, okay, we messed up, we're going to undo some of this and redo lots of stuff. And what did that cost them? I mean, the cost is so much more than money. It was your time, it was your expertise being burned, and now it's also the public opinion because everybody wrote about this. And everybody went crazy about it. So we have to think about how we can save ourselves from this before you guys are writing the code. Because we can know upfront. There is no longer an excuse to just build it, just ship it, and find out later it's a disaster. We can save so much time, money, culture, customer agony, if we can get UX involved more, because I or any qualified UX person would have known that that previous project was a failure. Not because I have fantastic psychic powers, but because when somebody told me about the project, I would say, and what data do you have that our chat system should be more like Snapchat? And if they didn't have good data, or I thought they were giving me manipulated data, I would say, let's spin up a research project and let's learn what our customers do want and need from us, because it may or may not be this. Or I could have prototyped it and brought the prototype to user testing and learned that that wasn't what the customers wanted either. So I think this is an example of skimping on UX, though I didn't work at the company and I can't tell you for sure, but I know that that would be something I would have been trying to kill every day. So here's one last poll for everybody. Just got to find my activate button. So this is a poll asking you to vote on a little scale for each of these. Vote between customer doesn't care and furious customer would love to drop us and go with a competitor for each of these 5 things. And you at home on the stream are welcome to vote as well. It's menti.com, 88752. So how much do these things matter to our customers? Person 1, person 2. I've been doing this talk for a year, I've never seen someone vote the bottom one a 10. I need to talk to that person. So this is typically the way the voting goes. Typically, the top 4 rank pretty highly. The bottom 1 ranks much, much lower. And thank you to the sensitive people behind me who are doing I don't know what. And that's because you know, I don't have to tell you, you know that the first 4 heavily affect the user experience. And when we heavily affect the user experience, we run the risk that people are going to want to run away from us and go to one of our competitors. The bottom one, agile teams, inefficient, over budget, that's not great, that's bad news, but that's mostly internal bad news. It might delay the next release for the customer, and so it does affect them, but in general, it doesn't immediately affect the UX. The top 4 do. So we can see that bad UX can make our customers want to leave us, and that's why we have to start hiring some better people and getting them worked into our companies better. And we can also measure this. A lot of this is measurable. People say, yeah, if I bring on a UX person, I'm just spending money. No, we can definitely measure what a UX person is capable of. So first of all, there's a lot of metrics that we can follow that have to do with customer satisfaction. And we should be following them, and even engineering should know about them. Because we should be looking at, depending upon what you're building, app reviews, app installs, app uninstalls, customer support tickets. All of these are things that we can review and measure to see how people feel about something and if things are getting better or worse and where. And I believe that one of the key things that we'll see improved that's measurable from working with UX is I bet that developers will estimate their time more accurately. Because I would imagine that developers estimate their time more accurately from a very thorough prototype like I like to make versus being handed some user stories. Because when you're just handed some user stories or, hey, here's what the CEO wants you to build, you have to start dreaming it and inventing it, and you might not estimate your time well. So that would be one thing. I also think that we can get things out to the public faster. I think people imagine working with UX is slow, but I would say it's probably going to feel slow at first, but when everybody gets into their rhythm and cadence, it should improve from there. So slow at first, more efficient afterwards, and we can measure these things. And how can we improve our collaboration, communication, and culture? Because I'm sure most of you in the room have horror stories about that weirdo tattooed hipster you had to work with who was just impossible. And I just heard one the other day. What did they say? The UX guy was really working mostly for the marketing department, and he would work on something for UX, never talk to engineers, send it over, and if engineers had a question, he would say, too busy working on something else now. Has anybody had a UX partner like that? No? Okay, well, that's good. Yes, the guy in the front says yes. So it's unfortunate. I would say fire that person. That's not really a UX person. That's an artist who put UX on their resume. But, and the same thing for you guys. How many of you have met the full stack developer you were sure was not a full stack developer? Yeah, we have the same thing in UX. I'm UX, I'm UI. And then I see your work and I go, not so fast. So how can we make this better? For starters, let's imagine that you've got a specialized programmer on your team, and let's imagine that person's a bottleneck right now. There are just too many stories looking for that person's specialty. So what do? We can create a skills matrix so that maybe we avoid this next time. Doesn't help us right now. We could do more exploratory testing so the developer gets more feedback earlier. We could do pair programming. Maybe we just have to add another developer right now and get us out of this jam. But nobody ever says, hey, stop everything. This specialized person should teach their specialty to other people on the team. But if you read Agile and Scrum books, they're going to say, your UX person's going to be a bottleneck, so have her teach everybody on the team how to do her job. Sad face, bad for culture. But good news for you guys when you're having an engineering block, because yeah, I have a degree in music, but I did learn basic programming language in 1979. So I know when you guys have a bottleneck, you want to teach me some code so I can code to production, right? You're going to teach me Java, Ruby, which one do you think I'd be better at? Which one's more musical? But well, wait, what if I just read an O'Reilly book? Then can I code to production? No? Blank stares? 3-day boot camp? Okay, I'm not having a good time selling you on this. So the way you feel about the idea that I might do your job with no experience, no education, an O'Reilly book, a 3-day boot camp is exactly the way we feel when someone says, just go learn some UX. Just go read that book or take that workshop or do a design sprint. I'm against design sprints. So just remember that there's lots of ways to solve a bottleneck, but trying to imagine we can teach each other our jobs on the fly doesn't make sense in either direction. My coding is terrible. I never even really graduated into CSS. I still write HTML with tables. Isn't that terrible? I don't even write divs. I'm so old school. So you don't want me to write your code. Fired. Get us into your system. If you're in Jira, we're on your team now. Get UX into your system. When you have a problem, question, ambiguity, assign us a ticket. It's a great way to start that collaboration. I know you're not going to move forward without me because I've been assigned to this ticket. And my policy is if I'm awake, because sometimes I'm in a weird time zone, if I'm awake and I see myself tagged in a ticket, I try to answer an engineer within 2 minutes. Even if that answer is, I saw this, I'm working on it, give me 45 minutes. But I know that you guys, as soon as you assign me that ticket, I'm your bottleneck, and I don't want to be. And I'm out there at UX conferences telling UXers, stop seeing notes from engineering and saying, I'll answer them tomorrow. You answer them immediately. They are your highest priority. Invite us to all of your meetings, not just because I'm fun and lively and naturally like this without caffeine, but because we are on the team now, and it's important for us to be in planning, showcase, retro, all of these things. I go to stand up every day and I listen for people who might have a UX problem or question and didn't think to involve me in it. And you might listen to me and go, oh, that's a tech thing, let us help you with it. So invite us to all the meetings. Your UX person may not be able to make all the meetings. We're usually spread a little bit too thin, but just know that if you have a UX question, find that person. And this is the real winner of the, if you're not taking a picture of it, well, there's a picture later. So this is the flow chart at the end of a 3-page document that you can download for free on the interwebs. And this document is called How to Detect BS in Agile. Does everybody know what BS stands for in English? Just in case you don't, I'll say it. It's bullshit. And this document, How to Detect Bullshit in Agile, was put out by the American military. This was put out by the Department of Defense. And you can find this online. It is not redacted or confidential. Because obviously, who's spending gazillions of dollars on Agile contractors? American military. And they're finding these people aren't really Agile. So they created a document of questions you can ask your contractor or internal team to make sure they're really doing Agile. And this is their flow chart at the end. There are 3 bullet points I want to read you. And I know we're almost out of time, so I'll just read you my favorite one. Are teams empowered to change the requirements based on user feedback? So we should be gathering feedback, and we should be correctly interpreting it. This is my job. And then we must change the requirements. So again, for people who thought that we don't want to change this stuff at the beginning, don't invite Deb to the meeting. She might try to kill this project. Even this reminds us we might have to change or kill that project. So running out of time quickly, I will just remind people what your company has tried and called UX in the past might not have been UX. That word you keep saying, it might not mean what you think it means. So it's time for us to try something new and make sure that our hospital patient of our internal processes has recovered. Because the path to getting ourselves out of this hospital bed, because we're alive, would be to work together to create better product, better customer satisfaction, more efficiency, collaboration, and to try to achieve these delicious, fantastic goals. And with that, I've reached the last slide and exactly the last minute. So thank you again for coming, and if you have questions, I'll be up here answering them while I pack up and make way for the next speaker. You can also find me on LinkedIn or just shoot me an email. And this is also available as a short book on Kindle and paperback. And again, there's also the 1, 1.5, and 2-day versions for people who are thinking, man, she should come into our company and tell everybody else this. So thank you for coming, and have a delicious day here at NDC. And bye, streaming people, wherever the camera is.